Welcome to the Meltzone Podcast. This is episode 56. I'm Tom.
And I'm Stefan. And today we have a really news-packed episode. So first we start with Simplify3D version 5 confirmed. Or isn't it? Anker is, getting into the 3D printer manufacturer, getting under the 3D printer manufacturers. And they have been teasing a 3D printer that might be available on Kickstarter soon. Then, 3D printed accessories for your car. Ford has been releasing interface CAD files and drawings that you're able to 3D print accessories for your Ford Maverick pickup truck. And talking about available 3D files for products, Valve has released the 3D files for their upcoming Steamdeck that you can use to print your own cases or maybe even snap on accessories.
Yeah, and in fact, that 3D file from the Steamdeck I am printing right now on the Formlabs Form 3 Plus that I've got sitting here. That is also something we're going to talk about. Updates from me about the Form 3 Plus. That Formlabs pulled a sneaky one on me. Updates on the Revo testing that Stefan is doing, and updates on Stefan's dead stepper driver situation. And as always, we answer two questions from you guys that you can leave just as comments or on Twitter using or tweeting at the Meltzone about Core XY printers, an alternative to the Prusa XL, and what we think about the Prusa XL at this point, and composting parts at home. What about the additives and what about the pigments?
I'm really happy that I for once started buying proper tripods because I always had just shit cheap ones from Amazon, and I finally invested in one. How are they called? The Italian one, Monsanto.
Monsanto, yeah.
Monsanto. That's somebody else.
Yeah, don't lick him.
No. It's just day and night.
Though honestly, my Manfrotto stuff I'm not too happy with. I do have a fluid head from Manfrotto, the standard NVH, the €100 one. It's got a ton of backlash, and the heads aren't great, but I do have the X Pro tripod as my main tripod, and that thing is fantastic. You can but I did put a different head on it. I did put a Komodo K5 on it, which
also didn't purchase the heads from Manfrotto, but bought Novaflex ones, German manufacturer, where the ball head costs like 3 times as much as my other tripod that I've been using for the last 5 years.
And the thing is, my main tripod used to be it's off frame here, but it's one that's made by Spectra, some made in West Germany or East Germany, I don't know, thing that my grandpa gave me. Okay. He still had this for his video camera stuff from the 80s, and he was like, here, and it's like super wobbly and stuff, but it does. That's my B-roll tripod. Yeah, it does extremely well. Smooth tilts and pans, and it doesn't have any spring load to it. So with the light ZV1s on there, it's just perfect. Hey, you use what works for you, right?
Yeah, you use what works for you, and the old ones worked for me as well. But just working with proper equipment is, especially now with like the macro photography, because this thing is just really sturdy. So you don't have a lot of vibration. You don't have a lot of just give when you're tightening something up. It's nice. Yeah. But they cost a ton. If I would imagine buying something like what I bought a week ago, when I started doing that, I would have cried because, or I would have not just easily said, I'll take the camera, I take that lens and that light and the tripod and a couple of pads right here, and just pack everything together.
Yeah. But something like a tripod you buy once and then you keep it until you've worn it out or it breaks or something. But what people thought they were buying once might not be the case. So that's our first topic here. We've got Simplify3D V5 that is supposed to be confirmed.
Confirmed, yeah, by Fabaloo. Or have they actually only been reporting about that, or did they have?
Let's dissect that in a second. But so Simplify3D V5, it's been on V4 for a while. Apparently, they lost 90% of their staff or something. They walked out or fired them. I don't know. But Simplify3D was always like, hey, you get free updates, right? That was the premise of buying a Simplify3D license. And last time we talked about it, excuse me, it was like, hey, there might be an upgrade feed to V5, which was tickling a few people in the wrong spot. Which is why I'm saying, hey, you pay for it once, like with a tripod. But yeah, is that there's no news on that, right? There's no news on how it's gonna come, when it's gonna come.
No. So at the beginning of 2019, Simplify3D V5 was announced, and since then, like, it has become a meme. So they are still very regularly posting on Instagram, Twitter, and everything. And
they've now disabled comments or yeah.
They have been disabling comments for a bit, but now activated them again because I don't know, they're just living the meme. And the only comments that you're always finding below those messages are, hey, when is version 5 coming out?
I might have had an installing that, yeah. So what we now have by Carrie Stevenson, Fabaloo, is saying, confirmed, Simplify3D V5 is on the way, which already is quite an ambiguous headline because it's been on the way since 2019. And Simplify3D have confirmed that it's on the way since then. But basically, this is the entire premise of the article. The entire core of the article is like, yeah, Carrie has a strong hunch that it's coming soon. Simplify3D didn't say anything. Didn't say, hey, we're going to release this at a specific date. But quote, I got the distinct impression it would be soon. Yeah, that's it. And it made the rounds. It generated a ton of buzz, and everyone's talking about Simplify3D again, as are we. And it's just a total zero article. It's just there's no substance to this at all. Like, yeah, it looks like it's just gonna be the meme forever. It's gonna be vaporware.
Well, we'll see. I honestly still have a bit of hope. So you haven't been using Simplify3D for like anything in the past besides like G-code viewing, I guess?
Yeah, and even...
Or mainly?
Used to, but Prusa Slicer now has the G-code viewer built in, so... Yeah.
I have been using Simplify3D quite a bit before Prusa Slicer really was a thing. So... I don't know. I'm still a bit excited. I hope that V5 is coming out and will bring the... Apparently, V5 will include an enormous amount of new functions. So that was a quote
from the article.
And one of the points he actually mentions is many new and innovative slicing features. So I guess the only way that Simplify V5 can be a real thing in the future is if there is really something innovative and revolutionary, and I don't know, because most other like free slicers have been becoming so good. So I don't know if they're bringing us really cool and easy non-planar slicing or even better supports than they had in the past, or I don't know.
The thing is, it's not like you're comparing with 2019's market or the other slicers have improved quite a bit. So obviously, IdeaMaker, the Simplify3D inspired, let's call it. Did my image just flicker?
Yeah, shortly.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, IdeaMaker heavily inspired by Simplify3D. Supposedly, that there's like some of the team members from Simplify3D are now working on IdeaMaker. That's become a replacement for Simplify3D for a lot of people. Cura is now on their like third new engine since 2019.
Yeah.
So they've been upgrading quite a bit. Prusa Slicer just got a huge upgrade with 2.4, and was it 2.4 or 2.41 beta or something? With
2.41 beta was recently released.
Yeah, with new support structures that are apparently, I've not tried them yet, but that apparently are super easy to take off, which was one of the big features from Simplify3D. So for V5 of Simplify3D to become something that's actually relevant, it's not just going to have to pull on par with what's been developed since then, but it's gonna have to exceed that.
Yeah, because it's coming at a kind of hefty price tag. So it used to be, I think when I bought it 5 or 6 years ago, it was 120 euros. And I think now sells for like 150.
Well,
and for that 150 bucks, you really need something that's worth it. At that time, it was support structures, it was processes and things like that. But since Prusa Slicer Cura, they have that in a way. Idea Maker does everything what Simplify does. I don't know. As I said, if V5 is coming, there need to be revolutionary slicing features in there, and that is one of the reasons I am kind of excited for it. Still, maybe it's just like with Duke Nukem Forever or
I was going to bring
3.
that up. Yeah, there's Duke Nukem Forever, has that been released? Nah.
Yes, of course it has been released,
but it's been poorly received, right?
Not too well, yes.
Okay, yeah, because that's what that's reminding me of, right? Video games, when they are so long in the making, usually they don't get better. Usually it's like, hey, we're now on an engine that's 10 years old, and our approach to things isn't what people are expecting for a modern game. In that case, we'll see. Hope dies last. Well. So that's Simplify3D. Not much substance to that, but maybe we'll see it at some point. But
a glimpse of hope.
Yeah, but what's definitely going to be happening is Anker, who are announcing that they're getting into the 3D printing game. And Stefan, you put that in there, but I find that really
I put it in there because, well, Anker, I mostly know them from their power banks. I don't know. I think this was actually one of the things where they, I don't know, started with, were really known for, but they now have a ton of high quality, but affordable, like electronics accessories. Yeah.
So what I'd put them at is like upper mid-range of I buy my USB cables from Anker if I get a chance. Power banks, I got like 5 of them. They make USB hubs, they make what else? Yeah, but they've also got sub-brands. So there's Anker for like all the USB stuff. They've got Soundcore for Bluetooth speakers, and I think headphones too. Eufy for home security, kind of like Google Nest and stuff. Okay. Nebula, I have no idea what those make. Can you click it? And now Anker Make. Nebula.
Anker Make, yeah.
Oh, Nebula, that's it. That's a pocket projectors.
Okay.
The LED projectors.
Yeah, Anker Make. There is currently only a teaser on that website, and enter your email if you want to get updates. But I think, as I have understood it from other pages, they are planning a Kickstarter.
Absolutely, yes.
They are planning a Kickstarter, so a marketing campaign for their new 3D printer. There isn't a lot of information on there. It looks as if it looks kind of a similar, just i3 style Ender 3 clone looking FDM 3D printer. Which they tease on their website real fast printing, which I don't know, doesn't mean a lot. Print smooth curves. Is that something new? Are they enabling G2 and G3 in Marlin? I don't know.
Game changer. G2, G3, but for those who don't know, it is like the curve command in G code where you don't have to do individual segments, but you just say, hey, do this curve at that center point at that radius.
Intelligent recognition. There was actually so I have seen on another page a picture or a mock-up of the printer where a camera was pointing like onto the print area that could only be for monitoring, but maybe also including, I don't know, failure recognition features using AI or something like that, which would be something nice.
Here's the thing, though, with the Anker sub-brands, it's never been about like doing the absolute breaking edge. Is it called breaking edge?
Cutting edge?
Cutting edge, there we go. The absolute cutting edge, the newest stuff, like pushing the envelope. I'm breaking out all the idioms today. It's always been, hey, we're going to get you something that is like solid and, like I said, mid-range and on proven tech. I would be very surprised if they start integrating like AI print failure recognition or like pre-rendered whatever and comparing like how does the camera see the object and what does my render tell me and doing like a comparison with that. I'd be very surprised if they include something like that. What I'm gonna expect from them is maybe some mainboard firmware that is made by them that approaches things differently. Print smooth curves that also hints at like some different motion processing happening. I mean, S-curve acceleration, that's a classic. But I don't think it's going to be like revolutionary different from what we've seen so far.
No.
At best, probably like CR6SE and the 3V2, something like that. Maybe, so like I said, my experience with Anker is that they're upper mid-range, they do stuff. The stuff they do at a level where you're going to be comfortable using it. So maybe it's going to be better made than the Creality stuff. Maybe it's going to be something that is going to be just more trustworthy in the craftsmanship. But I don't know. This is all speculation.
Yeah. I was always also asking myself whether they're really developing something on their own or if they're just partnering with an already existing company, like, for example, Dremel does with the
FlashForge
printers, or the printers that you're now getting at Aldi Germany from Beurer or something like that, which are also just rebranded FlashForge 3D printers. So it will be interesting to see if they are just, I don't know, like kind of tweaking an already existing machine, or if they really did something on their own. Because I think especially when you're thinking about mainboard and even like firmware, there is a substantial amount of like development necessary to like start from scratch and not use Marlin or Rapper firmware or something like that.
Maybe they're going to use Clipper.
We'll see.
Anker Innovations, that's another link they've got in there. What is that? Ooh, Anker launches first IF Design Awards. Well, we're gonna see. It's gonna be a Kickstarter, so whatever. But more competition, more fresh ideas.
Yeah, and it's nice to see an established manufacturer just getting into the market, because I don't know, I had the feeling over the last year or something like that Creality, they were releasing quite a ton of good products in the past, but the things I have recently seen from them weren't that cutting edge anymore. So
it's just you get used to a certain level of, hey, this is what my printer is capable of, and this is what it should do, and like there's maybe like little baby steps. There's not been anything that's been super revolutionary.
No.
What I'm wondering, like in general, about Anker getting into this is, do we have is 3D printing at that moment where it's like, hey, what's the comparison? Like the stuff you see on Höhle der Löwen, Lion's Den. They always get these investors. Shark Tank, yeah. Lion's Den that's a there is a format that does the same thing called Lion's Den, I believe. But Shark Tank, yes, that sort of format. They always get investors and yada yada, and oh, we're gonna make so many millions, and then half a year later you see it at Netto for like, hey, this is the bargain bin. That's where that sort of stuff ends up. Is Anker getting into this? Is that moment where you see it in the bargain bin? Where like everyone's into 3D printing and we're like past the curve and like it's just oversaturation.
I don't know. Maybe they try to make it more accessible, more easier to use, which I think already also kind of nicely segues us into the next topic. Because like Ford has been releasing 3D files for their new Ford Maverick car, small SUV or something like that, for 3D printed accessories.
Pickup. Lifestyle pickup truck.
Lifestyle pickup.
Don't call it a car. Yeah, look at that bed. I mean, I could barely stretch my legs on that.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say with that is that Ford has been releasing CAD files for the interfaces for their Ford Maverick with the intention that you can design your own accessories for your car now and 3D print them out. Of course, you might need to have the skills to design them in the first place, but there will be I guess a ton of designs just available on Prusa printers and Thingiverse and whatever to print out. And 3D printing, yeah, of course it's accessible, but it would be interesting to just give a 3D printer to my dad, for example, and tell him, okay, you have one day, please try to print out that, I don't know, trash bin for my Ford. If he is able to actually, do it, has the technology been becoming easy enough that he can just give somebody that machine and within an hour he has something printing? I don't know.
That would be a fun experiment for sure.
I don't know if he would be really into that format, but maybe should talk with him about that.
Yeah, my mom's been using the Mike Cassini chocolate printer while I had it, so why not?
That's nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sense of the Ford FITS system, the Ford Integrated Tether System. So they're saying there are 8 Ford integrated tether slots throughout the vehicle. So are those like the same slots that you print one thing for and just move it between attachment
exactly points? So Ford has been providing CAD files and a couple of drawings for the interface and I think the space that's available for your designs. I was really hoping for like part of the interior of a car that you have also like the available space available already in CAD, but what they actually put there to download are step files, just for the interface where you can slide something in. And there are 2 different ones, I think, for the underseat compartment and for like the mid console or something like that. Since there are 2, I guess they're a bit different, but it's just like a T-slot thing where you can put something in there.
Yeah, it looks like it's that same T-slot, but like on the center tunnel between the 2 rear seats, it's just one, so you can attach like a cup holder to that. But in the under seat storage, I guess that is, there's that bin, and on either side of the bin there's one slot, so you'd need that double mount to print like a divider is what they're showing off here.
So I was actually hoping that they also provided a couple of samples files that you could already print yourself, but the only thing that I have found so far is that Ford themselves are offering 3D printed accessories for that, how's it called, that system? The FITS system, Ford Integrated Tether System. So we have $50 for a 3D printed trash bin.
Which, honestly, in the grand scheme of car accessories, isn't that bad. I mean,
it isn't that bad. It would be interesting to see the quality of those parts.
Yeah, and whether
the material.
Exactly, whether they're printing out a PLA, you're not going to have a lot of luck with that in California.
No.
So I would assume it's at least going to be PETG or something.
But even PETG wouldn't be happy in like Nevada desert.
Yeah, well, it's
going
to have a small orange sticker on it where it's like, hey, do not use this in high heat environments.
Only drive at night.
May cause cancer in California. The usual.
Something like that. I put that into the show notes because I find it kind of nice that they are releasing these interface files. I think there is not a huge market at the moment because not that many probably have a 3D printer and want to print something out for their car. But I think it's a nice step into the right direction. And as I think you have mentioned before, there are other companies that have been releasing CAD files, especially with the intention that you can 3D print accessories for that.
Yeah. So what I think that the mainboard that I'm running on right now, I guess that's a bit more niche actually, because there's much less volume on a Threadripper mainboard than on a car. But for example, Asus tried this where they have, I don't know what it's called, but they've got like 3 threaded inserts on the mainboard. They did release printable files for that, so that you don't have to model anything yourself, but you could of course model yourself. It's just 3 M2.5 or M3 threaded inserts. In this case, for example, for a fan shroud, where you had an extra shroud and a fan that you could attach, and that was cooling your chipset or your SSD or something. That sort of thing. In the case of that mainboard, I think it's not a whole lot of effort for the manufacturer to include that, right? Where it's 3 threaded inserts, they get pick and place, they get soldered on. It's 20 cents, 30 cents, I don't know. If there's a space for that, no brainer. And maybe they have a 3D printing enthusiast on the team who can provide that, and it gets them good PR. And I like what they're doing. Even though, again, it's I don't know how many units they're selling off of that mainboard. 1,000, 5,000, maybe. Mainboards and stuff like that are surprisingly low volume, especially once they're like the upper end Threadripper stuff. But yeah, that's pretty cool. The other thing that we're seeing, and that actually I'm printing right now, sorry if there's some noise audible, is Valve has released the Steamdeck hardware 3D files, though we have to differentiate what they're actually releasing. They're not releasing the actual injection molding files, where you can replace your triggers or the front and back case and print your own. No. I mean, come on, clear Steamdeck case. I'd probably order one just for that. I've got a really nice 3D scanner right now. When are they shipping?
What kind of 3D scanner do you have at the moment?
Oh God, what is it called? I have to look up what exactly I got, but nice unit. Yeah, so that would be something. Though,
well, I 3D scanned my Super Nintendo controller at some point and printed out a clear case because that was really cool in the 90s.
Started shipping February 2022. Oh God, I might have to order one. I didn't want to order one, but after expected order availability after Q2. Okay, so by the time I get it, it's not going to be interesting anymore. Anyways, they released a 3D positive space model, let's call it that, of the Steamdeck, which looks to be actually based on the engineering files. So thumbs up for that. So it's got everything in there. It's got the actual case. It's got the buttons. It's got the track pads, I guess they're called. The sticks. Everything's in there, mechanically accurate. And yeah, like I said, I'm printing it on the Form 3 Plus right now. Actually, yeah, let me put that in the show notes real quick. And what you can use it for is, of course, making cases if you want to do that, or making attachments that fit on the Steam Deck itself. And you've linked the Prusa Printers contest that was exactly for that.
Yeah, exactly. So the contest is already over. It started at the end of last year, and it was a contest for Snap-on controller mods for people with disabilities, which is, I think, something really nice, because the results that we got in the contest really enabled, I think, printing of accessories for controllers. If you are just able to, I don't know, work with one hand or have other disabilities, that you're still able to game in a way. And
holy shit, if you look at people who are mastering like adapted controllers, wow, it's incredibly impressive what they're able to pull off. You know, people who have limb differences, I don't know what an appropriate term for that would be, but if you're unable to hold physically a regular Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, Switch, whatever controller, it doesn't mean you're a bad gamer. It's just those controllers aren't made for you, and these projects at least can adapt them in a way where you can then make use of them and participate. So
and I guess the challenge with these accessories is always, if you don't have a proper CAD model of, for example, the controller where you want to fit it onto, it's iterating until it properly fits. And if you have the, as you said, positive space of a controller, just the outer shell of a controller, you can just put that in CAD, design around these files, and get to a result way easier. And maybe you're even able to make way more sophisticated designs with that. And that's the thing I really like. And I guess in the end, it doesn't really harm the manufacturers, because I don't know, if you're a case manufacturer for a Nintendo Switch, I guess there are possibilities that you're getting the CAD files for the exterior of a Nintendo Switch from Nintendo themselves under NDA or whatever. But what does it hurt them? If somebody has a 3D scanner, they would be able to just scan that and release that to the public.
Yeah, and if it's just about clones, PlayStation controllers, classic one, you can get so many PlayStation controllers that are like mechanically identical to the original ones. So that can't be a reason either. No. So yeah, thumbs up to Valve for releasing these models, so that they're releasing an STL. They're releasing some PDF drawings with mechanical dimensions, or accurate mechanical dimensions, for a couple of core features. And they are releasing a step file, which I think is really great, because working off of an STL, it's not the best thing in the world. You could work off of a 3D scan just the same way as you can work off of an exported STL, but having the step, you can actually reference all the geometry in a CAD and just get it spot on the first time. So yeah.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what people come up with. It's not only accessories for people with disabilities, but I don't know, custom cases, custom stands, fan adapters, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just makes things way easier. And as I said, I think in the end it's a win for both.
It's that why not approach, right? Why would you not do that? It's
additional effort.
In a way,
maybe you need to maintain everything, and in a way it is a bit of effort. But I think in the grand scheme of a development program for a Steam Deck, this is peanuts.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm sure that they have had that they needed someone to sit down and actually remove all the internal features out of that model. You don't want like all the structure in there. You don't want the PCB details all exported into that. So,
but I think they have it anyway, because for case manufacturers, like, I don't know, D brand? No, not D brand. Oh, yeah, D brand.
Yeah, I think they do make cases.
D brand. I'm quite sure that they get exactly these files beforehand, so they are available. Okay. They're just not available to the public. I'm quite sure. that this is the case. I don't know if this is always like industry espionage, if a product is released and at the same day you have a couple of accessories that work with that. I don't know how it is with the new iPhones.
Yeah.
If there's always a delay or if...
Well, I know there's like dummies going around of unreleased phones, but where those come from, I have no idea. Where do babies come from? If you guys have any insights on like how that works, whether hardware manufacturers send out the 3D files or whether it's literally just someone sitting there with a 3D scanner with calipers, let us know in the comments.
or some employee forgetting one of the beta phones in a bar somewhere in Cupertino.
That was Apple, right?
Yeah, that was Apple.
With the iPhone 10?
No, way earlier. I think
that?
it was with the iPhone 4 where they first got to that boxy design.
Okay.
I'm quite sure.
Okay.
I think that was when the switch happened from like the really rounded design to the
3D. Yes.
thing.
Okay.
Something.
Oh. they now look like that again anyway, so
yeah.
So Streamlabs Ford releasing files. We did feature Twill, some household device manufacturer who was like releasing some parts too, like knobs and stuff, which is cool. It's just nice to see that, right? It's in a lot of cases it's just there's not much value to that, but it's also not hurting anything.
No.
Yeah. Would you like to talk about your Revo experience, or is that something you want to keep for the review? I keep trying to make a word up.
Revo.
But it doesn't work.
Well, we can talk about that. Since it was a review unit I got, and I had it printing for. Yeah, I printed my Voron 2.45 2.45. It's already late. So yeah, I have my Revo review unit for I guess 1.5 months now. I installed it on my Prusa Mark III.
Yep.
I printed a bunch of things and did a bunch of tests with it just in my office. And since I'm going to be building a Voron 2.4. I, of course, had to print the files, and just printing the files for the Voron 2.4 is at least 200 hours of printing, ABS.
Right.
So I thought, yeah, kind of a nice endurance test for the Revo, just to see how it works when I use it for a longer amount of time. And since I anyways wanted to release my review only when it is available for purchase, I thought, yeah, I still have a bit of time. So I printed Voron parts for 150 hours, so 200 hours, I think, all in all, with 200 hours all in all with the pre-tests I already did, and it started acting up, which is kind of unfortunate. So what actually happened is I started a print, and with my Prusa, usually I start a print and then leave, and 10 hours later, a finished print is usually on the print bed. I checked in after, I think, 2 hours, and I had a thermal runaway warning on the screen. So I just said, yeah, screw it. It was my basement, and I know that Prusa is sometimes not really happy if you are printing like below 15 degrees Celsius. So you sometimes need to start a print, let it heat up a little bit, then you get a thermal runaway warning, then you start it again.
They did fix that in some firmware revision, I think, that they...
It could be the case. Yeah. I just remembered that from the past. Yeah. So I started it again, and it worked. So I started it, I saw that it heated up, and I left again. But the parts looked kind of weird. So the next day, I removed the parts again. Hooked actually again a Octoprint again onto it, just to see how like temperature fluctuations, things like that is, and I saw quite a lot of spikes in just the temperature graph. So what I guess happened was that something's wrong with the thermistor in my REVO unit. And it showed a temperature, but it's usually working very well until 150 degrees Celsius. Then it goes to 160. Then it drops down to 150 again. Then it jumps up to 180. So I always heated it to 250 degrees for the ABS. Then it gets to 250 degrees. Then it at some point reports 280 degrees Celsius. But then after just a bit, it gets back to steady state. And it looks as if it was working. But the print results looked weird. So I put the temperature probe into the hot end. And I noticed that when I set it to 250 degrees Celsius, I think the real temperature within the hot end was 265 degrees Celsius. So it was printing significantly hotter than it should have. So I rechecked all my wiring. I rechecked all my wiring. Still the same thing. Luckily, I had another heater core from the REVO Micro here, and hooked that up, and everything was working perfectly again. So
it's. I was gonna say, did you check that it's not like the MOSFET on the board acting up?
It's not the MOSFET on the board. It's not the Prusa. So I changed everything.
If you swap the heater core and that fixes it, that is pretty definitive. And so, the thing with REVO, somebody asked on my review, was like, hey, can you also compare prices of like the heater cartridge and the thermistor versus REVO? And I checked, you can't actually buy the heater core by itself. You have to buy a whole new hot end if you want the heater core, right?
No, I don't think so. I think on 3D Jake they list the individual parts.
I just checked the E3D site. And they do
no. At 3D Jake, you can purchase a REVO heater core with spring for $35.
Okay, so I guess that is disassembled kits then, because I
am not sure. So 3D Jake is a big reseller. I'm quite sure that they are purchasing these parts separately.
Let me check something real quick while you entertain the audience. So what is probably wrong with my REVO unit is that the thermistor is acting up. I don't know if it is the connector. I don't know if it is, I think there's also some kind of a glass bead thermistor it's somewhere. I believe it's the exact same one that they've been using in since forever. It's just that it's now integrated into the hot end.
No. I am in contact with E3D. I actually shipped my heater core back to E3D for that they can take it apart to find the reason why it acted up, because I think it's quite important that they do QC on that and make sure that that is not like a serious problem. I have talked to quite a couple of other people who have been using REVO for quite a while, and for example, Nero 3D, the Voron guy.
The Voron guy,
he said he printed like hundreds and thousands of hours with REVO, didn't have a problem whatsoever.
Right.
So I guess I got lucky or unlucky there.
Yeah, so mine, of course, I mistreated mine and heated it up to 480 degrees, which is, that's just what it likes to sit at if you just give it power and nothing else. And it still seems to work fine. So we have one dud. Of course, statistically, that's quite a high failure rate with the low number of samples that we have. I probably wouldn't worry about it too much, and they do improve things as the product matures and lives on. So V6 8 years ago when it was released is not the same V6 you can buy today, but still, it just shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't happen, no. This was actually the reason why I contacted them directly. They were open because I guess they were also worried. And this was also the reason why I directly sent it back and told them, I won't be disassembling it because maybe I destroy something that would have been helpful for you. I don't know. As I said, I am, of course, a bit worried, but I'm not too worried. I think it is still a very nice system. Maybe not for everyone, as you also pointed out in your review, but otherwise it had been working really well for me for the other 150 hours printing Voron parts, and yeah, PC, ABS, PTG, PLA, everything
works for that. Okay, so sorry if it was a bit absent here, but I just checked. Yes, so the heater core is available individually for £23.50. I did not find it on the website, like I said, but it's a part that definitely exists. So that's good.
It is good, and I don't know if I think they are going to start shipping
tomorrow.
At the end of this week? Tomorrow. Yeah.
So at the time of recording, so today is the 15th, they will start shipping on the 16th. And it is first in, first out. The pre-orders are going to get shipped first, and then everyone else. Because that's something that people have been asking.
Yeah. If you have one, if you have weird temperatures, or I don't know, your extruded material doesn't look as it's supposed to at the temperature, check the temperature, and maybe the same mistake. I hope that it's not, but at least there have been cases, or I had a case where something was wrong with the thermistor.
Yeah, and if you see the temperature plot in something like Octoprint, it should be pretty obvious that that's not how it's supposed to look.
Yeah, with a temperature plot, it's totally obvious. If you're just looking at the screen during heat up, as I said, for me, starting at 150 degrees Celsius, it was just jumping up and down.
Yeah.
If you have it running, so Marlin or the Prusa, they are pretty. They can deal with quite a lot of weird temperature behavior. If you have a duet board and you're just like touching your hot end during, I don't know, a nozzle change, it will directly go into thermal runaway. So if you have a Duet board, you will notice it very quickly.
Yeah, Duet has a heater model built in where it's really doing hey, this is how I'm expecting the heater to perform, and this is how it's actually performing. And if it's more than 5 degrees off, there's something wrong. Marlin has a more lenient way of checking things. Right. So I put in here Form 3 Plus because that's something that I would like to ask you about, and I'm sorry I've not informed you about this beforehand, but just something that's been on my mind. So you know my review terms. My review terms, they're on the website. Everyone can look at them. And it's basically, hey, don't ship me stuff that's like not finished, that's not available for purchase yet. Yes, Revo, but that is a finished product and it was available for purchase. However, with the Formlabs Form 3, they shipped me that machine before they had announced the Formlabs Form 3 Plus, and they told me they would ship me a Formlabs Form 3. I unboxed it. I assumed it was a Formlabs Form 3. I said it's a Formlabs Form 3. However, it is a Formlabs Form 3 Plus. The only indicator, that it's a Formlabs Form 3 Plus is a little plus underneath the serial QR code, and it literally says Form 3 on the label. But there's on the other side of the other end of the label, there's a plus. That is the only indicator. So they shipped me a product that I did not know I was getting. I was referring to the wrong product. I unboxed it assuming I had a Formlabs Form 3, but it was actually a Formlabs Form 3 Plus. Now I'm a bit on the fence about this entire thing because they didn't inform me. I had to ask, like, hey, did you guys actually send me a Formlabs Form 3 Plus? Because somebody pointed out, hey, there's a plus on your label. That's a 3 Plus actually that we got. I was like, no. They sent me a 3. That's what they said. I'm kind of miffed about that. That I had to, first of all, that I had to ask, yeah, but that they sent me a different product that they were saying they sent me. Like that.
So
I don't think that there's much of a performance difference, but like I feel cheated.
What is the difference between the Form 3 and the Form 3 Plus?
I think like the optics unit is a bit faster on the Formlabs Form 3 Plus.
Most people would be happy if they get the upgraded version, and I assume Formlabs also thought, yeah, so we told him that we're gonna send him a Form 3, but we have that Form 3 Plus, which is basically the same, just a little bit better. Let's ship him that thing. He should be happy about that.
To be clear, that's what they've been doing on a lot of orders, where they've just silently upgraded it. If you would buy a Formlabs 3, even before it was released, that they had already silently shipped out Formlabs 3 Plus.
Yeah. So from that direction, they kind of probably even unintentionally tricked you, but in a good way. Of course, they should have told you, but maybe they didn't even know because it just went through their normal ordering system, I guess.
They did know that they sent me a Formlabs 3 Plus. They were like, we weren't able to talk about it yet. There's like NDAs and stuff, but you know, those exist. So of course, yeah, if you're buying a printer and you get a newer, better version, and I hope it is simply an upgrade, a better iteration of the same thing, with no drawbacks, then sure, you're happy. But if you're somebody who tests these things for a living, and I'm going to send this printer back at the end of March, I think, I have no intention of having, or no interest in having this printer and keeping using this printer. The plan is I'm going to test it. That is the one goal I have with the machine, and then I'm going to send it back, and it's going to be out of my life again. So really, I don't have a benefit in having a better machine.
But you have the benefit on reviewing the current version of a machine, because if you would have reviewed the Form 3, people would not have been interested in that, because they would have said, yeah, you are reviewing the outdated version of a printer, which is, as you just said, basically not available anymore. So the review would have been worthless. Of course, communication would have been different, but I think in the end,
that's the other part too, right? They shipped me a printer that was already out in the market for 2 years or something, and I was like, it's a cool machine. Let's take a look at it. And I was going into this at the premise of, yeah, it's not going to be the most recent machine, but I think it's still a very cool product. And then, like a week after I unboxed it or something, they announced, hey, we now have a new one. And I was like, couldn't you have told me? Like, couldn't you have told? So at
that point, you haven't been aware of that you had the newer version.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So, of course, in a way they tricked you, but I think it wasn't intentionally bad in a way tricking you. I think it's only positive for you because you are reviewing a recent product which people will be interested in. They would not have been interested in just a Form 3 review. And you could also use it for a clickbait title like Formlabs tricked me in reviewing their latest 3D printer or something like that.
Yeah. So just to, I guess, to illustrate my point, like this is kind of like, let's go back to something that's where it's a bit clear. You have a laptop. You have like I don't want to pull any brands into this. You have, let's call it a G15 laptop, and you assume you're getting the 2021 model, and it has a 10th generation Intel something in it, or 11th gen, I guess this is the last generation. 11th gen Intel has 7 in it. You get it, you unbox it, you trust that you got what it says. Clock speeds match up, core count matches up. You don't dig any deeper. You just assume it's right. Of course, on a laptop it's much easier to look it up. But then it turns out you were testing a 12th gen i7 the entire time, and it performs differently than the 11th gen. Like that's kind of like you. Yeah.
I do understand your point. So I guess to sum it up, it would have been good if they would have told you either right away, okay, you're getting a product that has not been announced yet, maybe even with an embargo. Okay, we're gonna send it to you.
Yeah.
You can, because you streamed unboxing that printer when it wasn't even released yet.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And I've had it sitting around in the box for a month.
yeah, of course, I have seen it when I visited you in September.
Right. It's been more than a month then. Yeah.
So you could have actually, I don't know, unveiled. That was the word I was looking for. Unveiled the printer before even Formlabs did that. So I think it's bad
but I believe
bad marketing communication on their side.
So since the only differentiator is that little plus on the label, if the Form 3 Plus would not have been announced, nobody would have made anything out of that. And I believe in software it actually shows up as a Form 3 until they enable that. That's until they enable the Form 3 Plus to be shown as what it is. So in that case, I could have put out a review reviewing a Form 3 while in fact it was so for this sort of stuff, like I have no problem signing an embargo, an NDA, that it has a time limit to it. It's common practice in the industry. PC components, that sort of stuff, routinely get embargoed. Though sometimes companies like Nvidia like to pull some shady stuff with NDAs and embargoes, but that's a different story. If it's just, hey, you get this product and you can take a look at it, and at date X you can release your review, that is fine. That is 100% fine. Okay, yeah, maybe that's something I should add to the review terms, just to make it a bit clearer. Yeah. Don't ship me the stuff you're telling me you're gonna ship me.
Yeah.
Don't switch.
Talk openly to you.
Yeah.
I don't know. People gonna think, what is he actually complaining about?
Exactly,
he got a better machine, and like the most recent machine, and everything would have been worse if you would have just gotten a Form 3, because that would have been the outdated machine. And then you could have, or you would have needed to say in your video, yeah, the newest version is released and it should perform basically the same, just maybe a little bit faster. So be happy that you got the latest machine, and just maybe complain to Formlabs that they should do better communication next time.
Yeah, communication is so important. So important. Why didn't you communicate about your dead stepper driver?
Yeah, let's communicate about my dead stepper driver. I thought I actually had when we recorded the last podcast. It wasn't a dead stepper driver. I didn't kill it. It is, I think. So to the ones who haven't listened to the last podcast, so I thought I have killed my first stepper driver on my Artillery X1, which has, I think, Trinamics drivers in there. And I said I have never killed a stepper driver before, so that is something new for me, and I'm happy that it finally happened. Turns out, so let me think. I think I actually did what you told me to. I just changed the stepper drivers on the main board, I changed the motors. I changed something on the main board, and I have seen that the stepper driver was still working. So turns out it was the flat flex cable that the Artillery uses. So the flat flex is really nice, and I think it is not real innovation, but I think they did a pretty good job with the flat flex cable on the X1. But the flat flex cable has a big problem that without the strain relief on the print head, it tends to break after a while. For me, it happened just on a random connector, which is usually not moving at all. And it looked as it was just an overcurrent from something, which I don't know where it came from. So what I actually did, I did not I did not replace the flat flex because I did not have any replacement. I just snipped off the first millimeter of the contacts of the flat flex, which were burned. But there was still enough metal left to put it back into the connector, and now it's working great again.
Yeah,
I did not reduce the contact area because it was only, you were easily able to see that like 2/3 of the flat flex was standing out of the connector. So
right, how does that one lock? Because typically
not at all. It's just you just stick it in there.
Okay.
Yeah, just friction fit.
Yeah, but in that case, you should really look at why was that situation happening where your flat flex cable burns up. What is causing that? Because typically when that happens, there's something else wrong. Either the connector's failing, or there's some electrical problem, or I don't know, contamination stuff. Because if it happens once, it's very likely to happen again.
Yeah. So I was playing around at the print head or with the print head when that supposedly happened. I don't know if I touched something and I shorted out the stepper motor wires or something like that. Not sure. Really not sure. Since it wasn't just randomly happening during printing, I was really doing something at the hot end. I guess that might have been the reason, but I really can't remember where it's coming from. It was just really one pin that was burned.
One pin? That's weird.
Yeah.
One is weird.
Maybe it was already like oxidated a little.
Usually they're at least flash gold plated, so I don't know, but this is speculation.
Yeah. So wasn't a stepper driver, so still did not kill a stepper driver yet. Needs to
still waiting for that first. I mean, if you want to experience it, it's not that hard if you really want to kill one, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not one of those bucket list things where it's like, hey, you're only real 3D printing dude if you've killed your 3 stepper drivers. Nah.
One of the reasons why I wanted to give that update, because as you have mentioned last time, you said, okay, check your wiring first because you don't think that it's the stepper driver, or there is the likelihood that something else is the cause. Yeah. And just as an idea for someone else who has problems with their machine, it might not always be the stepper motor driver. Check your wiring. My CNC router I'm currently reviewing, I had problems with the C-axis right at the beginning, and I thought the stepper driver was broken. Turns out one of the pins from the connector wasn't properly in the connector itself. Yeah. I remember a Patreon request a year or two ago where somebody said, my printer is not working anymore, it's not extruding anything. Turns out he tried to extrude material but did not heat the hot end. So you have the cold extrusion limit in Marlin where it doesn't allow to move the extruder gears at temperatures below 130 degrees Celsius, I think, as a default.
It's a setting.
Think about what could be the cause. And it was just a lesson for me again that usually it's wiring.
Yeah. That's why actually we have a question that kind of ties into that. That's why it's quite hard to give advice over email or over, well, even over Twitter, video, that sort of thing. It is hard to diagnose other stuff. I've tried with 3D Senpai. Obviously, I picked some that I thought were quite obvious. Some stuff you can at least like limit to, hey, these are the things that could be because of what we're seeing, because of what's happening, because of the things that can even cause this sort of error that we're seeing. Other stuff, not so much. Like, hey, motor isn't turning. That can have probably 100 different reasons why that could be happening. In fact, for the extrusion force tester that I built for the REVO review, that I absolutely did not steal from Vector 3D. I had the problem that the Hemera that I was using to push the filament wasn't turning, or it was looking like it was a broken stepper driver, right? The motor was just buzzing; it wasn't doing anything. Turns out Hemera uses that flipped wire scheme where it's not 1A, 1B. Well, it's not first coil plus minus, second coil plus minus, but it's interleaved. It's first coil plus second coil plus, first coil minus, second coil minus. So you literally have to swap 2 wires on the connector on the cable. That's one of those things that causes a stepper motor to not turn, and it's one of those things that it seems like it's a broken stepper driver. But it's impossible it took me half a day to figure that out. I had run into it before. I knew I should have known that was something that could happen, but still, this sort of stuff is hard. Just saying. Yeah. If you don't have a checklist to go through where it's like, hey, this is a symptom, this, it's really tough.
This might be just like a general idea. I don't know if something like a wiki or a troubleshooting guide like that exists. I tried to do that when I had the wobble marks or the Z banding on my 3D prints. Yeah. I tried to exactly make such a list where it might be coming from and what I checked one after the other until I found out that it was bad PID on my bed.
Yeah.
Might be interesting to do exactly something like that, because some solutions are not obvious to many.
So basically like a choose your own adventure kind of thing.
Something like that.
If your prints look like this, skip to page 325. Yeah, basically. So I'm thinking of like a troubleshooting wizard. It would have to be everything's an app these days. No, a website where it's like, hey, input your error or your issue, and then it's like, hey, are the wobbles at a set interval? Are the wobbles or at a regular interval? That sort of thing, and it checks for all the possibilities. But that has a couple hundred endpoints.
Yeah. So why aren't you using AI for that? Make a let's diagnose 3D printing problems with AI.
Out of all the things where AI is a bad idea, that's got to be pretty high up on the list.
I don't know.
How you still? What's your training data like?
Yeah, you would need to generate training data with exactly that symptoms and then feed it in there.
Yeah, not just one. You'd need a whole
Or you're just asking people to send in their problematic prints. You diagnose them with your 3D Senpai knowledge, but even categorize them and use them as training data for your AI.
But that is best guesses. 3D Senpai is not definitive answers. It's in the video you can see it's like, hey, it could be this, it could be that, it could be that. So I mean, yeah, AI probably not a good idea for that. Just saying. I know enough to know that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually that should be that was going to be like the intro to one of the questions we got from Michael Lang. Question in German, but I'm going to add hoc. Try and translate this. So he's asking Stefan specifically.
Great video.
Yeah, great.
Even though your video looks horrible.
What do you mean?
In the podcast.
Oh yeah, well, okay. So that's
my podcast video stream looks horrible compared to your pretty face.
Yeah, sorry. So either I gotta put a blur filter on this video stream at some point, or I actually have to set up Jitsi Meet to give us a 1080p stream from Stefan. We are recording this as a live video stream. But so the question, Michael is trying to make a decision here. So he has a Viper. He's had a Viper for 6 months, and he would like an XL printer, not as a kit.
A Core XY printer. He
says, okay. He says he wants an XY printer.
Yeah.
I read that as XL because he's asking, hey, what do you think of the Prusa XL? Or is there a better alternative today? Stefan, what do you think about the Prusa XL? Is there a better alternative to it today?
Well, if you want to follow the hype, pre-order an XL. I don't know. The Prusa products could be great. It could be horrible as well. So, just because I and many other pre-ordered the Prusa XL doesn't necessarily say that it's going to be a good product from right at the start. If you are convinced that Prusa is gonna make a great product, of course you can spend the money. Honestly, if you are not sure about that, don't pre-order it. There are alternatives on the market. Prusa XL, are you buying the Prusa XL because you want a tool changer? Are you just buying it because it's big? Are you buying it because you want to have a Core XY printer? It's hard to answer. I think from the question, what he's asking, he wants a Core XY printer. If you want to have a reliable Core XY printer, Voron, Rhetoric.
Yeah, but not as kit.
Nicht als Kit. Yeah, okay. Not as a kit. The American guys, how are they called?
S3D?
No, not yeah. Do they have Core XY?
Well, here's the thing. Is Core XY really something that you should that should be like the defining feature?
It's cool at the moment.
Yeah, well, yeah, but sure, it's cool. But is that the thing that makes a printer worth it just because it has Core XY kinematics?
Not necessarily. If you want to print fast, it's probably better than a bed slinger. But
sure.
You could also use a Delta, but I think Delta, I don't know, are Deltas obsolete?
They're pretty cool if you want to print tall stuff.
Okay.
So for that they're good. But what about the Markforged kinematics, where it's like half Core XY, where like the y-axis is direct drive and then the x is just with a 90-degree idler on there.
No.
That's still a really good kinematic system, but it's not Core XY. Like, yeah. So just saying
I think, well, talking about like the price range, the Prusa XL is gonna sell at $2,000.
Just checked, so it's 2,100 for the single extruder kit.
Okay, so something in that price range. As I said, yeah, Voron, Rhetoric. How are the guys called? They were also at Murph. They are called, who have a really nice all linear rail core. Linear rail. Correct. So Railcore. I think they're also selling pre-built printers. Probably. I don't know if they're selling them in.
Are they selling them even? That's
Filastruder. Yeah, you can buy them at Filastruder. $1,700. Parts. Kids. You are right.
Parts. So Railcore is, as I understand it, an open. So Railcore.org says it's a Core XY based RepRap 3D printer designed by J. Steve White and Tony Akins, and it is. I don't think it's a commercial project. It's just it's like Voron kind of, where there are kits out there that others make, but Railcore does. So, but what I'm trying to get at in general is like, hey, what do you think of the new Prusa XL? It's a printer, like you said, it's a printer that's not out yet. Nobody has used the Prusa XL outside of the Prusa folks themselves, and they don't have the finished unit. I think, maybe, I don't know. But for us as reviewers, influencers, YouTubers, people you think know their stuff, we don't know more than you do. We don't have any inside scoop. We don't have most of the time, we don't have, unless there's an NDA or an embargo that you don't know of. Most of the time, we don't have these things just flying around. We've not used them for months. So the Prusa XL is a printer that's not out yet. If you've not seen anything on the channel about it, or on social media or anything, we either don't have one, we've not used it, so we are not qualified to comment on it, or we're not allowed to comment on it due to embargoes, NDAs, etc. So, again, stuff that's unreleased, yeah, it's unreleased. It's not out yet, and that's one of the points in my review terms. It's like, hey, if this thing is not finished, unreleased, I don't have any interest in it because it's not finished. Whatever you decide to change until the thing actually ships, you can do, but I'm not going to be able to cover those changes that you make, good or bad.
Okay, so,
yeah.
But are there other alternatives which are not kits? I wanted to say the E3D tool changer, but the E3D tool changer is also a kit and probably even harder to build than a Voron kit.
Yeah, the tool changer is like similarly. Intentionally.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not built a tool changer, so I'm not qualified to comment on it.
I haven't built a Voron, so.
Yeah, I mean, so have I. Right here. The tool changer is like intentionally only a kit to ward off people who don't know what they're doing. So, I don't know. If you're going specifically Core XY, tough. If that is your thing you need and you don't want to build a kit, that's a pretty
Ender 7?
Ender 7.
I have an Ender 7 from Creality.
I've lost track of all the Enders they put out.
It's a Core XY. But so my experience with it so far were only mediocre. Of course, Ultimaker.
Not a Core XY.
Which is not a Core XY, but kind of goes in the same direction. Costs 2 or 3 times as much as a Prusa XL, so probably won't be something that you want to look at. From Sigma, these Sigma are
also not a Core XY.
Oh, yeah, it's an IDEX.
Well,
it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard to
if you
recommend.
Don't want a kit.
Is there any 3D printer out there that you can buy as an assembled machine that is a Core XY?
Of course, we have one at work, but it's $50,000.
He didn't say anything about price, did he? He's just asking about better alternatives to the Prusa XL.
But if you're coming from a Viper, I think going from a $200 3D printer to
yeah.
Let me see. It's hard. There are commercial machines available with Core XY, but they are not starting below $5,000.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, Ender 7, but not really happy about that. I think we're probably missing a really obvious one. I have the Sapphire Pro, which is Core XY, but it's also like a really cheap Core XY, which might not be a real upgrade to the Viper.
That thing looks horrible.
Wow. It wasn't totally horrible. But it was $200 or 280 or something like that.
Wow, okay, I mean, for that,
yeah.
You can't really complain.
So, how to answer? Listeners, viewers, if you have a suggestion, put it down in the comments. I'm quite sure we missed a totally obvious one.
Yeah, but again, Core XY, if it's cool, yeah, but it's not like Core XY makes the printer better. And I've said this before. Finally, we have a question from Hannes and Hannies W. Composting at home. What about additives? Color pigments. Enjoy your garden vegetables. And you've got a really good point for that.
So yeah, I recently did my video about composting 3D prints. Nothing really composted that much after 100 days. Additives, color pigments and stuff like that. So the thing is, if you are looking at least at the DIN ISO standard for compostable plastics, it especially asks for a grow test on the medium that was used to compost the plastic. So I think the procedure is you put the plastic into the composting medium, compost it for the 120 days or whatever it is. And then at the end, you at first check if the material is really gone, or are the particles small enough? And then you grow something on that. And I think in parallel, you grow something on a reference medium, and you are checking if both grow equally well.
There's probably conditions for like, hey, environment needs to be this controlled, yada yada. But basically, you're checking for whether it's toxic to plant life.
Exactly.
And enjoy your garden vegetables. Yeah, I mean that there could be some stuff that gets transferred into the soil and into your plants and into your vegetables, into your fruits. That's not something that it didn't test for specifically. It does not test for toxins, contaminants that make it into plant life or make it into the soil.
No, I'm quite sure not. So the thing, and probably also the reason why, for example, Filamentum do that, the Filamentum non-oilean is only available in its natural color. So it's only the polymer with the additives, but no pigments added. Is there
food safe colors? Would those,
of course,
so those would work for a compostable filament and not release anything?
Totally
toxic,
simple. Iron oxide, red iron oxide.
Yeah.
You could use that as a color pigment. It's rust.
Yeah, exactly. So but that gets you like really natural colors, right? It doesn't get you like an intense blue, for example. Blue, as far as I know, is a
copper usually.
Yeah, copper or cobalt or all sorts of other toxic stuff that's in like the blue shades.
Yes. But the composting, I think the composting standard also specifies that no heavy metals, for example, must be contained in the polymer, or heavy metals below a specific limit. So that would already avoid, for example, maybe copper or cobalt or whatever to be used as a pigment in that material.
Isn't there... there is it Protopasta or somebody else? But I remember that there's like some manufacturer who actually does that, where they're giving you a line of filaments that has just like natural colors, natural colorants in very, I don't want to say muted colors, but like non-bright colors. The stuff that you would get from like ochre or what's the sort of stuff you use for dyeing stuff? Trying to come up with stuff, but yeah. I remember that there is one manufacturer that does that, but I don't know if the filament is like specifically compostable or biodegradable to be non-toxic after composting. You guys probably, listening, you probably know exactly who I'm talking about.
I think if you're talking to the master batch manufacturers, so the guys who put the pigments into pellets that are then used for the extrusion process, I'm quite sure that they have this lineup of pigments that are used for or can be used for compostable materials. I don't know how it is for food safe containers and things like that. I'm quite sure that for these applications, you might also not be able to use pigments that contain heavy metals. So,
yeah.
But it is, in the end, it is a good point. There is some checking. I don't know what things are used for additives to get specific properties in the end, but maybe in some way they also need to comply to the rules. If you're very interested in that, check the standards where they do the tests or where they specify the tests.
Okay, and with Stefan starting to lag out again, I think this is a good time to call it. Bit of a short episode. 1.5 hours. I hope we covered everything that there was to cover today or this week. As always, Stefan, thank you for the time. Thank you all for watching or listening. What else do we have to say as the outro?
If you want to support us, you can head over to our Patreon accounts. And if you have questions, just leave them down below and mark them with a question mark, because
do you literally search for?
I search for question mark usually, because when I'm reading the comments, I not always just directly paste them into our show notes. So
Makes
before
sense.
the show, I usually search for question mark.
All right. So yeah, you know what to do. Thank you all for watching, listening, and we will see you all again in the next one. Bye.
Bye bye.